North Korea, a weightlifting country so steeped in mystery that absolutely nothing is known of their training methodology or their athletes' lives outside of the glimpses that we get at international competitions. And having withdrawn themselves behind their borders for 4 years from 2019 to late 2023, their sudden return to the sport has been more shocking than ever before. And so, for the last 6 months, we've filmed them. Every training session, every world record, every lift, glance, movement, to try and understand, for better or for worse, how North Korea trains. And so in this video, we'll reveal it all. We'll go through all of the routines, habits, exercises that we've noticed from them, and of course, if anything is unique to them, we'll cover that too. At the end of the video, I'll also walk you through my once-in-a-lifetime experience, a 20-minute Instagram-fueled journey that I shared with one of the North Korean athletes. Let's get to it. A few things you'll notice are just how intentionally effortful they are in every lift, how much muscle mass they'll carry, and how willing they are to push through pain. Actually, let's just quickly get up to speed on their return to the sport. So they now have a total of 16 world records compared to China's 23. The next highest are Georgia and Indonesia with 3 each. But it's the rate at which North Korea is setting world records upon their return to the sport, which is most impressive. At the World Cup in Thailand, the competition they are training for here in this session, they set 7 world records compared with China's 5. At that rate, the most dominant team in the world come this time next year will no longer be Team China. And now, I don't know about you, but that's a shift I don't know if the weightlifting fan base is truly ready for, or perhaps expects. Also, as a lot of you know, North Korea isn't competing at the Olympic Games this year, but most of the best athletes in the world are. And the journeys, stories and results of those athletes are incredible. And so I've spent the last couple of weeks writing my official guide to the Olympic Games, and it's totally free. It's filled with dozens of our best pictures from over the years and acts as a comprehensive guide covering every single category for you to make the absolute most out of this upcoming Olympic Games. All you have to do is head to the link below and you'll be able to download my official guide to the Olympic Games for free, no strings attached. I would highly recommend that you do that. It's the biggest, most important event in the weightlifting calendar, and so you just want to know that you're enjoying it and understanding it as much as is possible. So that's my official guide to the Olympic Games. It's totally free, no strings attached. I just want you all to have the best experience of this Olympic Games. The link is down below. Okay, let's kick this off with exercise selection. What are they actually doing? What movements do they prefer? We'll then look into their intensity, i.e. how much weight do they use, before looking at their accessories, i.e. why are all of their upper bodies so massive, and how come so many of the women are strict pressing 70 kilos for reps with ease. Across all of the training sessions we've seen from the North Koreans, they've been traditionally very classical with the variations of the snatch and the clean and jerks that they use. The snatch, from the floor, caught deeply, is the most specific lift because it is the lift. In the cascading tree of subsequently less and less specific movements, the next is the power snatch. And this is the same with the clean and the power clean. And this is where these athletes tend to stay. They aren't performing hangs, pauses, muscles. They are practicing the lifts. Of course, this is just a snapshot of their training process. As weightlifters approach competition, they do tend to reduce the variety of work and hone in on the more specific stuff. But I've never seen a North Korean stray outside of snatch, power snatch, clean and jerk, and power clean and jerk. The only North Korean who differed was Ri Song-geum, the 49 kilo world record holder, the best female weightlifter in the world. And she was competing the following day. So fair enough, she was basically just moving the bar around. Another thing is that they tend to perform both movements on the same day. Whereas the Chinese team, who I would say train most similarly to the North Koreans perhaps, except for some distinct differences in terms of their overall effort and their accessory choice, they would only train one of the lifts each day, i.e. it's a snatch day or it's a clean and jerk day, or maybe it's a squat day or even a pull day, whereas the North Koreans do it all. I haven't noticed any rhyme or reason behind as to when they chose a power variation over a full variation, and I haven't seen them perform both lifts as powers on the same day. It's only on occasion one of the lifts will be a power, like with 81 kilo Ri Chong Song, who does some of his cleans as powers and others as full. I'd say it's probably 80% full lifts, 20% power variations. Power, by the way, caught above parallel, hips above knees. My speculation would be that they follow the same decision making as in the 80s and 90s Bulgarian team, i.e. you do the full variations of the snatch and clean and jerk unless injury or pain is seriously causing you a problem, in which case do powers. But even in the case of 64 kilo Ri Suk, who you can see here, performing full clean and jerks in pretty extreme pain, certainly enough to warrant stopping the exercise, but she doesn't, she keeps doing the full variation. Next up, let's take a look at their intensity. So intensity in a sports science context doesn't mean their effort, it means the percentage of their 1 rep max that they reach. Absolute intensity is the percentage of their 1 RM, relative intensity is the percentage of the maximum they can perform the same number of reps at. So their intensity is pretty high. They perform a lot of pulls and deadlifts to a maximum intensity. They grind these things out. It's the same with squats, though they tend to perform higher repetitions, 2s, 3s and 4s, rather than singles, which they do in the pulls. The pulls have a higher absolute intensity, the squats have a high relative intensity, but a lower absolute intensity than the pulls. In terms of effort, you can look at these 2 sets from Ri Chong Song from 2 days later. He performs 4 sets of 3 at this 220 kilos. There are 2 collars per side for those wondering how it's 220 kilos. And then they load up 240 kilos, but he fails. That's some pretty high intensity stuff. In the classic lifts, the snatch and the clean and jerk, they also tend to go pretty heavy, at a minimum of 80%, but it's more the effort they put into each lift that differentiates them most from other teams. They attack all of their lifts, whether it's 50%, 80%, 95%, as though it's 100%. You certainly get the impression that they have no fear of max effort attempts. Not because they're insanely courageous, but more so, again like the Bulgarians, because it's just normal. They do it all the time. It's not an event, it's just daily. This mixture of effort and intensity is pretty potent. By the way, this training session was uploaded to Weightlifting House TV a few weeks ago. We upload 2 exclusive training sessions every single week, along with all of the competitions that exist there, athlete interviews and the documentaries that we're slowly releasing. So to get more weightlifting in your life, head to Weightlifting House TV and sign up. There's more from North Korea there. This week we also uploaded a Team China session. There's Lesman's 180 kilo snatch session as well. So that's weightliftinghouse.tv for more weightlifting. You can watch it on your smart TV or download the app on your phone. The link is below. Next up, accessories. The North Koreans take their accessory training very seriously. Every training session I've seen from them, every weightlifter has performed some sort of accessory, a bodybuilding-esque movement for their shoulder development. Whether it's presses from in front of the head or behind the head, or in some cases both within a single set, or it's lateral or loo raises. But often I've also seen them doing overhead tricep extensions, upright rows, and feet elevated deficit press-ups. In this training session it was mainly pressing, though I didn't capture the whole thing. Normally we see the North Koreans pick 2 accessories and then perform 2 to 4 sets of each. You'll notice in this session the interesting technique used in this variation of the press. It's certainly not a strict press, but it's also not a push press because there's no flexion and extension of the knee. Instead, they push their hips backwards, keeping their knees locked out, and then extend at the hip, adding enough momentum, albeit relatively horizontal momentum, to get the bar moving off the shoulders, which is the least applicable part of the press for a jerk anyway. Quite why they do this, I don't know. It's like the halfway point between a strict press and a push press in terms of the amount of weight that can be used. It's also similar to the press from the old clean and press days, which ended in the 70s. It's a bit more controlled than that, in that there's no excessive leaning back to press a bar overhead, but the utilization of the hips is interesting. Okay, and then finally, as promised, the story of my interaction with one of the North Koreans on the bus. In Doha, at the Grand Prix in late 2023, I just filmed Rahmat Owen Abdullah versus Ri Chong Song in the 81 kilo category. Rahmat had attempted and missed a 5 kilo world record attempt at 214 kilos. Thus, it was Ri who won. I hopped onto the bus with the weightlifters who had just competed, along with their teammates who had come to watch, and we headed back to the athlete hotel. And while I was on the bus, I began editing the video of Ri Chong Song, equaling that 209 kilo world record. But just before we left, the North Korean team turned up onto the bus, and due to a lack of space, one of the North Korean men sat next to me. He then just watched me edit the video of his teammate, Ri Chong Song, on my laptop, and interestingly, he made absolutely no effort to hide the fact that he was watching. He was just sort of leaning in. So this went on for about 20 minutes probably, and then when I airdropped the final product to my phone, there was this moment of disbelief as he saw it disappear from one device and appear on the other. I guess it's not a standard North Korean technology. So anyway, I then offered him one of my AirPods so that he could watch and listen to the final product on my phone. And I think the video probably had JID or some other rapper like that on it, and I assume that, in North Korea, JID isn't exactly topping the charts. He didn't react at all to it, but he did watch the video a few times really intensely. And then after that, I just went onto the Weightlifting House Instagram feed, and we just watched months of content. And he was extremely interested in all of the videos of the weightlifting. Then we arrived back at the hotel. He took out his AirPod, gave it back, and walked out without any recognition about what just happened. Hopefully he remembers that interaction as much as I do. Don't forget, head to the link below to download my official guide to the Olympic Games for free, no strings attached, to enjoy this Olympics more than any other.